The whodunit is a timeless plot device for good reason. It can invest audiences in even the lousiest of scripts, as long as there's a killer to be sniffed out one way or the other. Though not all audience members out here are actively trying to solve the mystery or beat the movie, these killer reveals were also thunderously obvious that even the most passive of viewers likely figured them out. From twists that were telegraphed a little too eagerly to films which made some basic storytelling mistakes, just about everyone saw these unmaskings coming. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 horror movie killers everyone predicted. Number 10. William Schenck, Spiral. Though the Saw franchise has generally done a solid job with its Secret Apprentice reveals, Spiral's attempt at a soft reboot had fans sniffing out the big rug pull in record time. Many predicted that Spiral's Jigsaw killer copycat would be Detective William Schenck, played by Max Minghella, the moment the first full trailer dropped, owing to the distinctive iffy vibe that Schenck gave off throughout. But the full movie committed a cardinal sin, lousily trying to trick fans into believing Schenck couldn't be the new Jigsaw killer by unconvincingly faking his demise. Schenck's mid-film murder in the series' first major death in a Jigsaw trap to happen off-screen, which combined with the fact that his remains were oh so conveniently skinned, made it hilariously easy to deduce that Schenck had in fact faked his own undoing. And so attentive fans just had to sit and wait impatiently for the other shoe to predictably drop. What a letdown.
Before we go any further, this video is brought to you by Surfshark. Using a VPN like Surfshark is a bit like wearing pants. All the important stuff stays private and secure when you're out and about online. Thanks, Surfshark! Not only that, but we've all spent an evening scrolling through Netflix just because you can't find something you want to watch. Well, with Surfshark, you can change your virtual location to access all your favorite content. Whether that be your favorite US TV shows or a movie that you are desperate to watch but for some reason is only available in Peru. Cheers, Peru! First Paddington, now this, you're alright. Plus, you can minimize buffering and lag with fast, reliable connections and enjoy seamless streaming with unlimited bandwidth for all users. They also offer over 3,200 different servers in over 100 locations. I mean, there is no way you could guess them all. I adore all their different locations. I mean, for Surfshark, I Uzbekistan.
Are you finished?
Yeah, let's go. I'm hungry. They also offer 24/7 customer support and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And why not check out Surfshark Alert 2, a breach detection system that notifies you of personal data leaks. Click the link in the description or use code CULTUREHORROR at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. And now, back to the video.
Number 9. Sheriff Newlin, Thanksgiving. It always pays to be wary of a name actor in slasher movies whose stature is considerably higher than the rest of the cast, because there's a damn good chance they're the killer. And so applying that logic, Patrick Dempsey was the #1 suspect in Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. But in addition to being the most high-profile performer in the cast, there was another major clue in the movie's very first shot. Thanksgiving begins with a Halloween-style POV shot, which ends up being a fake-out gag as the person walking up to the Collins household is actually, you guessed it, Dempsey's Sheriff Newlin. Except it's not so much a fake-out as a subtle hint that Newlin really is the killer whose eyes we just saw through. Couple all this with the vaguely off, even sinister vibe that Dempsey carries himself with throughout the movie, and it's easy to figure out that he's the one behind the seasonal massacre. Number 8. Laurie Spengler, Happy Death Day. Try though Happy Death Day did to cast suspicion elsewhere, it's extremely easy to deduce that the cherub-masked killer repeatedly killing Tree is her deranged housemate Laurie. Throughout the film, Laurie is just one of 2 characters who is especially friendly to Tree and would therefore make a surprising killer, the other being Tree's love interest Carter, who would simply be too obvious. Yet Laurie's entire vibe is sus from the very start. Her uptight demeanor and how clearly upset she is when Tree throws the cupcake she made away, blissfully unaware that Laurie poisoned her. The best hint of all though, halfway through the film, the killer uses a cupcake candle to light a trail of gasoline that blows up a cop car, basically confirming Laurie's villainy to the keen-eyed. Even with the script's attempt at a fake-out killer, Laurie cuts a wary, uneasy presence basically every time she's on screen. If you go with your gut here, it's clear she's the killer. Number 7. Nana and Pop Pop, The Visit. 2015's found-footage romp The Visit marked something of a modest comeback for M. Night Shyamalan, in large part because he didn't hinge the movie around a ridiculous logic-derailing plot twist. In fact, Shyamalan arguably went too far in the opposite direction, as The Visit's big reveal was actually howlingly obvious. Shyamalan's film follows 2 young siblings, Becca and Tyler, who would go to stay with their estranged grandparents, only for their elderly relatives to begin acting out in increasingly disturbing ways. Yet the whole setup was fishy from the jump. Becca and Tyler's mother Loretta hasn't seen her parents in 15 years due to a past falling out, and we never see Loretta speak with them prior to Becca and Tyler going to stay with them. And so, if the simplest solution is usually the correct one, it's easy to wager that Nana and Pop Pop aren't actually Loretta's real presence, as it turns out to be the case. Predictable though this was, after years of suffering through increasingly groan-worthy try-hard twists from Shyamalan, it was actually somewhat refreshing for him just to pick the most logical sleight of hand. Number 6. Andy Richards' Sorority Row. Sorority Row's killer turns out to be protagonist Cassidy's boyfriend Andy, who attempts to kill everyone that knows about the prank gone wrong which led to the death of a sorority sister, Megan, to ensure his future with Cassidy is safe. That's pretty daft as serial killer motives go, given that nobody was pointing the finger at Cassidy anyway, and while it might seem random enough to make Andy an unpredictable culprit, that's not quite true. There's a very telly line early in the film when Andy asks Cassidy why she drifted apart from her sorority sisters after Megan's disappearance. To some, it might seem like a lazy way to get some expository dialogue across, yet there's a slyly knowing tone to Andy's question, seeming to suggest that he already knows the answer and is therefore likely the killer. Number 5. Detective Bailey and Quinn, Scream 6. The Scream franchise has had something of a mixed history with the predictability of its ghost face reveals, but things have never been more obvious than in Scream 6. First off, it's clear early that Detective Wayne Bailey is one of the killers, given that his ghost face has a habit of dropping the masks of previous killers at their crime scenes, complete with DNA from the killer in question. Who else would have easy access to such materials except for a cop? It clearly wasn't going to be the movie's other major law enforcement character, Kirby, so it left only Bailey. Secondly, there's Bailey's daughter, Quinn, who's also attacked by Ghostface off-screen before dying. Given that off-screen attacks are incredibly rare in the Scream series, and the light of suspicion is already firmly on Bailey, it's incredibly easy to guess that she's Ghostface number 2. It's at least a little trickier to predict a surprise third Ghostface, with Bailey's son Ethan completing the trio. All the same, 2 of the 3 were so staggeringly obvious that it seemed like a fake-out. Number 4. Mrs. Collins' Last Night in Soho. Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho hides a third act plot twist up its sleeve, yet Wright left said sleeve showing a little too eagerly earlier in the film. It's eventually revealed that Ellie's landlady, Mrs. Collins, is actually a decades older Sandy, who in her youth became a serial killer, luring men back to her home and murdering them before hiding the bodies in the walls and beneath the floorboards. For starters, it's unconscionable to picture Edgar Wright hiring an actress as esteemed as Diana Rigg for a throwaway supporting part, because though Rigg was into her 80s when she filmed the role, her Emmy-nominated work on Game of Thrones a few years prior proved she still had the chops for meaty dramatic work. And moreover, there's a dead giveaway scene early in the film when Mrs. Collins shows the bedsit to Ellie and mentions that the building gives off a horrible smell in the summer, not so subtly hand-waving the fact that there are dead bodies lining the walls. Number 3. Dr. David Calloway, Hide and Seek. There's no denying that Hollywood really overdid the whole split personality twist from the late 1990s through the early 2000s, the likes of Fight Club, Identity, and Secret Window ensuring that audiences became increasingly attuned of the idea. And so, when 2005's horror thriller Hide and Seek revolved around increasingly disturbing violent acts committed by Charlie, the apparently imaginary friend of Dr. David Calloway's daughter Emily, it was easy to see where things were going. Many quickly called the fact that David actually had dissociative identity disorder and was Charlie himself. Given that the film didn't seem to be going down a supernatural path, there weren't many other likely choices for the killer. Because honestly, why wouldn't it be one of our greatest living actors? Even with the film's half-baked attempts to throw suspicion off David, he's the only character many viewers ever suspected of being Charlie. Number 2. Tara, Shrooms. The mid-2000s were definitely a different time, because if Shrooms were made today, audiences would have figured out the twist the moment its premise was announced. And in fairness, most folks seemed to predict it at the time anyway. After all, in a horror film about a group of students being stalked by a serial killer while high on mushrooms, what could be more rote and predictable than everything not quite being what it seems? More to the point, given that we see protagonist Tara ingest the infamous Death Bell mushroom at the very start of the movie, firm in the knowledge that it has violence-inducing effects, it's a reasonable wager that she's actually the one doing the killing, which is bang on the money. Perhaps the filmmakers were hoping that the hallucinogenic setup would simply leave audiences unable to deduce what was real and what was a trip, but really the answer was laid out pretty cleanly early on. And finally, if you haven't seen the slasher flick Heart Eyes, major spoilers are about to follow, okay? You've been warned. Number 1. Detective Shaw and David, Heart Eyes. Heart Eyes is a solid fusion of gory slasher and cutesy rom-com, though made it way too obvious who its loved-up serial killers would be. Midway through the movie, the titular killer assaults the police station as they attempt to kill Ali and Jay, leaving Detective Shaw to confront them. However, director Josh Rubin cuts away from this scene before we can see the outcome, which for anyone who's seen their fair share of horror movies should be enough to leave them hugely suspicious of Shaw. This is compounded when Shaw later returns with an injured arm, and the film handily glosses over the ordeal she just went through. At this point, it seems clear Shaw is Heart Eyes, but because she staged a fight with someone in the police station, there has to be a second killer. And honestly, who made more sense than the mildly creepy IT guy, David, briefly introduced shortly before the police station assault? Even though there's an attempt to fake the audience out with a copycat Heart Eyes, all the suspicion is ultimately proven right, with Shaw and David being unmasked as lovers whose shared kink happens to be killing. On that cheerful romantic note, thank you so much for watching along. You're awesome. Please check out the original article that this is based on, that was written by Jack Pooley, and it's available over on whatculture.com. Follow us at WhatCultureHorror on the various socials. I have been at Sean Ferrick. Until I see you again, we can predict seeing each other. It'll be fun, and I love you still. Thanks very much.